Hello and welcome to the Consistory of the coelc YouTube channel. I'm your host for this video, Reverend Zabel of St John's Evangelical Lutheran Church, located in Dalby, Queensland, Australia. On this video, we're continuing my mini-series on Angelology by going through two books I've written, my Choirs of Angels, a brief study on the kinds of angels, and my kids' book on Choirs of Angels. Today, we're going to be discussing the last of the 5 angels mentioned by St. Paul in the Pauline epistles, and this is the choir of powers or authorities. The Greek word here is exousia, meaning authority. However, older translations translated the term as power. Their name seems to denote some sort of authority or leadership. However, church tradition has considered them the soldiers of heaven and heavenly warriors. So often in church tradition, the powers have been associated with warrior angels. And as I've mentioned in my previous videos, the principalities, the virtues, and the powers are mentioned in Scripture by St. Paul in reference both to good angels and also to, bad demons. So Paul teaches that there are good heavenly authorities or powers, and that there are also evil demonic powers or authorities. And so if we were to take the church tradition that these are the warrior angels, we would assume that there are good powers who fight on the side of God's people, and there are demonic powers who fight on the side of God's enemies. And so how exactly they would do this, I'm not meaning necessarily like the angels have to come down and bear swords and fight people physically, but there is a sense that the angelic and demonic worlds always kind of work in the background of our world, that they kind of work in the unseen parts of creation, kind of as the cogs of the universe. And so when wars happen, those who are on God's side may have God's angels leading them to victory or leading them into the battle, whereas those who are enemies of God would have demonic powers. Also, you could have the demonic powers trying to lead humans astray in battle, to commit war crimes, to be quite gruesome and bloody, and to dead the conscience and be heartless, and just lead people to war in general. Like if the choir of powers is to be understood as the angels that affect war, then it could be understood that when there's warmongering politicians or conquerors that just want to go to war for war's sake, that this could be caused by the demonic powers whispering in their ears to go to war. Again, a lot of this is speculation, since the Bible doesn't actually give us any description of this choir of powers. All we know from Paul is that there is a choir of angels known as the powers. What they do, we don't know from Scripture. This is largely speculation based on the interpretation of the Church Fathers and the church tradition regarding these choirs of angels. That wraps up the discussion on the choirs mentioned in the Pauline epistles. And so you might be thinking that this is now the end of my mini-series on angelology. However, there are a few choirs left to discuss. See, traditionally there are only 9 choirs of angels according to the Catholic Church. I like to separate the omphanim or wheels and the thrones into 2 separate choirs, and so that would bring us up to 10 choirs mentioned throughout the Holy Scriptures. However, there were some other church fathers that believed there were more types of angels, and that there may have been up to like 14 or so choirs of angels. And so in these next videos, I'm going to go through discussing some of the other theoretical choirs of angels that were held by some church fathers, but not historically believed to be choirs of angels by the majority of the church. So I've been your host, Reverend Zabel. Goodbye and God bless.